I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because it does, I think, provide a really good contrast. You know, it's interesting how the Fandom Menace and how a lot of the groups and channels associated with the Fandom Menace have been labeled as, you know, hate groups and as being hateful and bigoted and closed-minded. And yet we're the ones that bring in people with various opinions, various backgrounds, and we don't, you know, even though all of us are in this industry trying to succeed, right? You know, we're on YouTube and we're trying to get subscribers and everything. Instead of us looking at it like you see in the Hollywood model, where it's, well, I got to beat you and I got to beat you and let's destroy each other. It's interesting how in the YouTube model, or at least in the Fandom Menace side of things, it's about support. It's, oh, I like your stuff, or hey, I agree with your stuff, or hey, I think that we could definitely work together on certain things. So hey, let's help each other, right? I mean, that's how I got involved with Geeks and Gamers originally. Was I was doing box office numbers, and then Jeremy realized it and said, hey, I like what you're doing, man. Could you do this for the channel? I said, absolutely, right? And I do love the comment you made earlier about being on the live streams. You're seeing all the super chats coming in. You're like, hey, where's my cut of it? You know, sometimes that's how I feel too, right? Because
where am I getting a piece of that $50 super chat?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I feel the same way, right? Because, you know, I've been on those streams. I've been on Friday Night Tights, and, you know, for me, it's always been, though, that's one of the cool things is that it's not really about, in that situation, you know, about the money. It's about, hey, we're here to support each other. And it does help us individually. Like, as you said, it's driving traffic to your website. It's driving traffic for people to look into your work, to buy your books, to actually look into the history of the projects you've worked on, to pay attention to your Twitter, therefore, to look into your future projects and support those as well. And so you're still getting something out of it. You know, for me, I, you know, gained subscribers, and there are people now that are members on my channel that had never heard of me until I was on something like Friday Night Tights. And so I just think it's interesting how when you compare the Hollywood structure where it's fight, 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 let's tear each other down, versus this YouTube structure where it's still personalities, still vying for the same thing, where there is still a sense of competition, and yet it's also different as well.
Odin, you're absolutely right. It is something that I actually noticed. I was fascinated how, you know, because I followed everyone individually. I followed you individually. I followed Jeremy individually. I followed Abu Nas individually, right? All these people, you know, OG Star Wars. I was just following them individually. And then they all started popping up on each other's feeds. And then things like the High Council and the Dark Council and, you know, and all these various multiple groups coming together that have made me really happy. You know, the Fandom Menace, all of those things, you know, the toxic femininity, where people are coming in and supporting each other. That is a very different model from what I've experienced in the industry, where, you know, it's a collaborative industry. We work together on projects, but there's, you know, everyone just moves on after they've worked together on a project. So if you made some friends, hopefully they hire you on the next thing or you hire them. But there isn't this kind of feeling of, you know, rising tides raise all boats kind of thing, right? And so I've witnessed that here on YouTube, and I think that is a new phenomenon that's developing, and it developed completely organically. And again, I don't know if it's happening everywhere. It certainly happened in the Fandom Menace, because you pointed out something, Odin, which is correct. This is the most diverse group of people I've ever seen together. I mean, look, I think you're a devout Catholic. Is that correct? Right?
That's correct.
You're Catholic. I'm Muslim. You know, we've got people who are LGBT. We've got Mormons. You know, we've got left-wingers. We've got people who love Biden and Hillary, and we've got people who love Trump. And we're all united because we share certain interests, particularly in Star Wars and some other projects, and we don't like where the industry is taking these things. And that's the most amazing thing. Whenever in those early days when it's like, oh, these are just a bunch of these toxic fans and racist fans, like, you know, I'm getting the most passionate critiques of The Last Jedi from African Americans, like Abu Nas, right? You know, Gospel According to Mark with a C, right? Those are, I mean, that I was seeing that very early on. I was like, what are you guys talking about, right? And then, and you know, women like Mecca Random were coming in and saying, you know, I believe she's a bisexual woman. She's a woman. She's LGBT, and it's like, why are you putting a label that women they hate this and this is anti-LGBT? I'm a critic as well, and so. That's the blessing, is that we all created completely ad hoc this community, and you know, we have our points of view. We go home to our families and our lives, and I don't think our points of view are largely changed from our interactions, but we've developed mutual respect.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about, right? That's what the human experience is all about, is, you know, hearing and listening to and seeing people for who they are, right? Seeing that there is a person on the other end of that, you know, and believing in the dignity of that person, no matter where they come from or no matter what their background is. And I'm glad that you mentioned, right, the sense of diversity in not just the community, but also in the chats as well. You know, one of my favorite things is whenever Friday Night Tights is just going and rocking and rolling, and you got Jeremy coming in there dropping F-bombs left and right, and then all of a sudden you see a comment, and who is it? It's Father Christopher Miller, right? It's a Catholic priest, and he's there still watching the stream, supporting the stream, and it just goes to show you is that, you know, what we've found is a common ground to stand on. And that's something that can unite, right? And that's something that unites all of us, is our common ground is fandom, is being fans of various projects and wanting to see those projects and wanting to see the things that we love protected and to be respected above all things, really, too. And that's the thing that's kind of holding us all together, and it's allowing us to have these conversations. And right now, right, to have this conversation between you and I, you know, about fandom, and also, of course, about the differences in our own faith, that can happen because of this community that has been built up.
Well, what unites us is this, and because there are other communities, there are apparently, you know, pro Last Jedi and pro Disney Star Wars communities. I don't know how unified they are, but they're certainly loud.
Yeah.
I don't think they have the sense of camaraderie that we do, because, you know, I think in some ways, from what I've seen of those, is they're all, I mean, because I don't know how genuine all those opinions are, but let's assume they're genuine. But they all seem to be trying to get the attention of Disney and trying to get the affirmation of Lucasfilm and trying to get Mr. Rian Johnson to like one of their tweets, right?
Yeah.
And so they will push each other aside for that moment of glory. Whereas we are standing against something, which is the corruption of storytelling. So we don't really want. I mean, we are standing against power and fame and all and the forces of ego. And because to do this, we've had to swallow our egos. We had to say, you know, we're going to go against the power structure, and even if we're isolated and alone, we're going to talk about this. And that's the things that united us. You know, I was a religion major in college. I've always been fascinated with religion. And one of the reasons that it's been so important to me in my work as a filmmaker is that religion is the greatest storytelling. I mean, there's a reason these religions work, right? They over 1,000 years, the stories work, and they penetrate the human heart, and they continue on generation after generation because they're teaching us something that we feel is true. And that we found in, you know, and we are all, like I said, different religions right here on this particular video. But what unites us is we love storytelling, and we both can tell when storytelling is no longer storytelling. And because our hearts are turning against it, and that's what brought us together.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, it's when the stories are no longer stories, but rather agenda, right? And really, in a sense, propaganda. You know, we don't want propaganda coming into our stories. We just want good stories. And that's what it always comes down to. People say, oh, you just hate it because it's a female-led story, or you just hate it because of this or that. It's like, no, we hate it because the agenda has taken the place of the character, has taken the place of the character arc, has taken the place of the storytelling, you know? And obviously there's so many examples that we can go into with that. And it's just truly amazing, though, how misrepresented really I feel like the group is overall. And that's why it's great to have people like you coming in now and being, you know, now a visible face, because you are a part of this, again, the Hollywood side of it, right? So you have the insights of Hollywood, right? You have the ability to kind of help us bridge that gap a little bit to find out, okay, so what does Hollywood perceive of these things going on right now, and what is their perspective on it too? So again, it's just, I feel like the Fandom Menace is just constantly expanding, and to now include Hollywood producers in it as well is just really awesome to see. And now a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members: Albertus Magnus, animation commentator Brian P., David Bobrizik, Dion, DivX, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Honker Chonker Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Kenneth Camille, Lady T, Laura Story, who is the modern Major General, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange at Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Ellen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benton, Tina Bojan, The DJD Show, and Tina B. Thank you all for being my Patreon members, and a huge shout out to my Subscribe Star members: Stand For, John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2Cool99, Darkstar57, Alex McCarthy, or J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nevadan G. Adams, and the K-Man. Thank you all so very much for being my Patreon and Subscribe Star members. Seriously, you are the wind beneath my wings. You help keep the lights on. You help support things like the giveaways for my $5 and up backers, and also allow me to do a lot of the extra stuff for the channel, including the exclusive OMB podcast that I do every couple of weeks with John, the Flick Pick of the Flick Pick channel. And yeah, thank you so much for your support. Don't want to really drag it out too long this month. You guys are amazing and beautiful people. If you want to have a name shout out, if you want to have access to giveaways, podcasts, any of that kind of stuff, check the links in the description for Patreon and Subscribe Star. You guys rock. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.